Hey, listeners, before we dive in, a quick but important note. Content warning for this episode. There will be discussions of sexual abuse and other sensitive topics.
PodCandy!
A podcast about cults, crimes, and killers.
Today, we are honored to share the story of Chavie Weisberger, a courageous and resilient mother who opens up about the darkest, most personal parts of her life.
Chavie was raised in an ultra-Orthodox Jewish sect led by her own grandfather, and what she endured behind closed doors is both devastating and eye-opening.
She also shares the heartbreaking details of her custody battle, how even after leaving the religion, the courts forced her to conform to the beliefs she had already broken away from.
This episode is heavy, it's raw, but it's also full of strength, clarity, and a refusal to be silenced.
Our source for this story is the powerful interview featured on Cults to Consciousness on YouTube, hosted by Shalise Ann Sola. Go check it out for the full conversation.
Take care while listening and join us as we explore the incredible journey of Chavie Weisberger.
Outside my window, it's only raining. When the wind blows, I feel pain. I don't need no doctor, baby, I'm not sick. My body's been locked up, heartbroken ever since.
So, Dori,
Yeah.
I want to hear your initial takeaway because I'm very interested in the Orthodox Judaism and the rules and how it's similar to other cults and other religions. Did you enjoy this in terms of learning about Chavie, and what did you take away from it? Because I listened to it 4 times, so I really feel like I know her. How do you feel about it? Like, what were your takeaways?
Well, so unlike you, I am absolutely not an expert on the ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Jews, ultra-Orthodox Judaism, even though I am Jewish. I have just some basic personal experience, like going to Israel and driving through the community there. So I really didn't know a lot about this until you, Stacey, brought this up that we should do this for our next episode, and I'm very glad you did, because I think I had mentioned to you and John initially, is this really a cult? And as soon as I started researching it and watching this YouTube episode, I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely a cult. I think it's once again with these religious cults, making women less than, treating them subservient, not giving them the full rights. And also there's a portion of this that is also about homosexuality, because Chavie is a lesbian, but wasn't allowed to be a lesbian growing up, and was forced to marry a man and forced to have children, which she doesn't regret having the children. But
No.
So it is, once again, with a lot of our cult episodes, as we talk about another example of this, and women treated like shit.
Yeah, women. So they don't. So it's similar to other, extreme religions like Mormonism, IBLP,
Scientology.
And I have done a lot of research on Scientology, but not as much as I have on the Jesus related religions,
right,
and the Jewish religions. And I'm also Jewish. There's no vocabulary for either the male or females about sex and what happens and how it works, which is why the abuse is so rampant in these cults. because there's a separation from society. There is an isolation that happens. It's obviously the bite model of, of all the manipulations, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all those ways. But they're so secluded and sequestered almost that they don't have a vocabulary. So when Chavie was at sleepaway camp, she was, sort of messing around with girls and she didn't even really have a vocabulary for that, because she didn't know that it was quote unquote wrong, which we know it's not wrong. Follow your instincts, and that she was gay. Neither she nor her husband wanted to marry each other, but they were pushed into it. Her father said, "You at least respect him." She said, "Yes." There is a very strong father relationship of listening to the father, getting permission from the father in all of these cults that are religious based. And so without that vocabulary, it feels like a rape, because you don't have any, to not learn about sex until the day before your marriage and the night before, where you meet with the counselor. I can't remember the name of the counselor that works with the women, but we also noticed this in Unorthodox that we watched. There's a lesson where they teach you about what happens, but it's all these convoluted, weird, gross rules. So the irony of this is that they have a special cloth that they wipe to see if there's menstrual blood. All of that is so fucking creepy. In a regular,
Sorry, there's just so much to unpack that you're mentioning.
I know.
I want to make sure that because both of us are like, oh my God, there's this. But yes. I want to definitely make sure that like people are following along, because you mentioned like the sleepaway camp, and she went when she was a very young girl, and she enjoyed kissing girls. Like that was kind of a way, it was all within, it's not like she went to like a very public, it's all within the Hasidic community. So she's not like getting to go to like some like banging summer camp. She wasn't at Lake of the Woods or Miramita. Right. Right. She's within the Hasidic, but yes. At that point, I think like as a young girl, she got to experience the fact that like, oh, I'm kissing a girl and I enjoy this. Like that's where she felt safe, and that's what she liked. And you mentioned as well, like they are completely segregated from the outside world. These Orthodox, and this was in New York, this is a community within New York, they're not allowed to even go to the public library.
Right, so the word library is removed from all of their writings.
It is removed, and all of the, they remove words from text within books that they read as well. And again, this is very similar to, a lot of the cults that don't allow you to be online and research, Scientology or research Hasidic Jews and not being able to express things, not being able to research and find out what is going on.
So completely sheltered from anything that might give you an idea of what's happening, how other people are living their lives, what's happening in the world. Like the day-to-day is very, there's just every single facet of your life is controlled. So like from the moment you wake up, there's, a basin with water, a cup of water in it that you prepare the night before near your bed. And you need to wake up, recite a certain prayer, wash your hands in a very specific way before you even get off your bed. There's the right way to put your shoes on, the right way to tie your shoes.
She thinks a lot of this is normal, and her father, let's just say what it is. He's a man. It doesn't matter if it's her father or if it's the rabbi or if it's her husband. It is a man that is in control of girls and women throughout their whole entire lives within these many sects of Orthodox Judaism.
So let me just say one more thing that's different about the Orthodox, the Hasidic community in Williamsburg, New York. The women are the breadwinners, the men study Torah. That's what happens. But in IBLP, women are not allowed to work and the men work. In Mormonism, the women are not allowed to work, the men work. So this is one distinct difference. The other thing, the Quiverful movement and IBLP and the Mormonism and then the Orthodox Judaism, they all want to build an army of people to either in the Christian based ones, it's to add more Christians into Christian nationalism, Christian, build an army of Christians. In the Jewish culture, in the Orthodox community, it's about building a community after the Holocaust. Now, it existed before the Holocaust, but then after the Holocaust, a lot of people came in there and they want to rebuild. And it seems it's kind of paradoxical the way they want to build it. And the other thing I want to say is that there's such a limited, like you were saying, you're not allowed to research, not allowed to see certain words. There's a limited knowledge of anything particular for you to go out into the secular world and exist. I don't know how, with a limited scope, if you have the limited scope, you have to, and we're going to ask John about this. How does a person know that they need to go outside of the scope if they're in the scope?
We were very, very sheltered. So no TV, no movies, no books that were written by people who weren't Hasidic. And it was very, very strict. And even like in school, the books we used were not traditional textbooks. Actually, when I was younger, we did, and then they got more like devout as I got older, and they started producing their own textbooks because of like some content that they didn't want us having access to. So when we did use the secular textbooks, they would censor them, so they would like cross out things that they didn't, like words like library were crossed out in my textbook. Yeah. And we weren't allowed to go to the public library, which is why they censored it.
I just can you imagine, I can't imagine my life without fun reality TV shows and going to baseball games and going to all kinds of theater.
It's control. It's all about control.
It's all about control. And I also think a lot of these people who leave these cults that are now doing these podcasts and out there doing documentaries and talking about their lives, it really doesn't sound like it's a good childhood. Now, I'm not going to blanket saying that every single Hasidic Jewish person has had a terrible childhood, and a lot of them really embrace it. Like her husband was really into it and stayed within. But
isn't there a lot of fear? Don't you think there's a lot of fear there?
Of course.
It's fear of leaving, fear of being against God. And the biggest fear for some of these cults now, Judaism with God and with offending God or all those things, people have the actual fear that something will go wrong for them. And this is a total psychological thing that John will be able to answer. But I will be punished in the next life. We don't believe in other lives in Jews, but there must be a sense of punishment going against the family. And this, you have to fight to be a human. You have to fight to be in the real world, to get out of it. And they will literally ostracize you. They will put you in a category, she wore jeans outside of her house, and then they all decided as a community that they were going to shun her. Same thing happens with all the cults.
After the divorce, the first day I, left my apartment without my wig on and in jeans. It was immediate. I was going to a doctor's appointment. I went to the doctor's appointment. I came home. By the time I came home, the whole entire community knew about this terrible thing that I did, which, leave my apartment in jeans and without my head covered. And, and the reaction was swift. It was, we're going to take your children away from you. And by we, it was not just my ex-husband. It was a concerted effort by the entire community. So they moved into quick action. They had hired him the best lawyers. They had a whole case built against me. And very quickly, the court ordered that my children be removed from my care and go to live with their father.
And then one more thing I was going to say is that when she told the rabbi about her experience with girls, he didn't down the fact that, she was, gay, but he told her to be celibate. You're not allowed to explore those feelings. You have to be celibate. You can't be that. You cannot be that. So you're celibate. That's how you have to live, with no joy, no passion, no feelings, no emotions. What is it's so unhealthy. Why do people?
It's unhealthy, but a lot of them that are in it, I think that is what they know. And you're right, there's probably some fear, but also some of them really embrace it. Chavie did not embrace it. It was not for her. And the fact that you're fixed up with your, husband or wife at a very young age, she didn't get a chance of true single adolescence to explore that much. She was, here's the guy, you're going to marry him. How do you feel about him? Well, I guess he's okay. Well, just do it. Okay. You feel he's okay. He's a good guy. So marry him. And then she has 3 kids, very, very young, and is miserable in her life. I mean, I think that she's 42 now?
She was 20.
She was 20 when she started having kids and marrying him, because you have kids pretty much right away after you get married.
Yeah, you should get pregnant on your wedding night. I mean, they want proof that you had sex on the wedding night. They want actual physical proof. Isn't this gross?
No,
it's
so gross because
when
you say they, it really is
everyone.
The community. It's the community. It's the families. It's the rabbi. It's the friends. They all want to know that this is happening.
Specific to the wedding night, because both of us didn't know what we were doing, and it was our first time, and we had only ever learned about it from some teacher. There's a lot of anxiety of did we actually do it? Is this considered we consummated it? And we didn't know. And I just remember on the wedding night, at 3 a.m. after a full night of the wedding and people and dancing and going home to our apartment and doing this horrible, and then my ex calling the rabbi to be how do I know if we did it right? Do we, is it okay? And that was another layer of just incredible stress and also the involvement of the rabbi into kind of this personal thing was another traumatic piece to all of it.
But in her story as well, she is gay and she doesn't want to be in this marriage, and she and her husband did not have a very good relationship, and finally after 7.5 years she wants to get out of it. But here's the whole control over women and the no rights. It's all for the husband, that the courts within this community are oh, your children, you want to get divorced? Well, we're going to make it so difficult for you to be a mother to your kids and to be able to have even a 50-50 relationship with them.
I was legally not allowed to share anything of myself with my children, none of my values, none of my ideas, none of my anything about my sexuality.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And also, it's just even crazier that the judge also included in there that even when my children are not with me, that while I'm in the Hasidic neighborhood, I need to show up like a Hasidic person.
No.
I wasn't allowed to leave my house in the clothes I wanted to wear. I wasn't allowed to, if I wanted to travel on the weekend, which is the Sabbath, I wasn't allowed to. So I would have to walk outside of the neighborhood and take the train from there or get a cab from there. But I was a prisoner in my own community for years.
Stacey, you can probably speak more to this of how long was it? 4.5 years where she couldn't even.
Yes. About 4 years.
Really, truly, engage with them and give them, even though she wanted to leave the community, she was banned from expressing her beliefs to her children for years.
Yeah. And because, that could have caused them to be taken away. And I have to tell you, being somebody who's divorced, and not in the same situation, even remotely, Chavie's story is she did such a good job with her kids, with, having them come over, giving them a treat, making them feel safe, introducing them to some fun stuff, showing them videos. She was so wonderful with those kids, her experience with them. So now that they are older, and when I think her oldest is 20 or something now, I think this is a couple years old, this podcast, I'm not sure. But her kids have an open knowledge about everything now that they're adults. They can really understand. You have to be so careful when they're little what you introduce them to, because they can accidentally, they don't know they're not supposed to say something. They don't know that if they say, Mom told us X, Y, and Z, that she could get in trouble. And she had to protect herself and them. And I applaud her for leaving, because some people would have stayed because of the fear and also worrying about losing their kids. But she fought and fought and fought, and she got what she needed. And she has an amazing job, and she's on tons of TV.
You mentioned the job, like you mentioned before, that the women in this kind of religion, the women work and the men don't, and that actually worked to her advantage. That she was and is continuing to make money, so she's the breadwinner. So it was a bit easier. I mean, I'm sure it was very traumatic for her to leave and all of that, but it was easier. So how do you feel about that? Because this is different, like you said, that in a lot of other cults, I think that's I'm into it in one respect, that the fact that they are going out and making money, but it also probably sucks because all that money is given over to the husband and given to the community, right?
Yes.
But not for you, for them, right?
Yes. And I'll say one thing. So, she's making money. She's the breadwinner for the family, but she's also the mother. And the guy is off doing Torah study and studying. Who's taking care of the kids? The community. But it's just all messed up. It's so backwards to me that, the woman is expected to have babies and also to work and make the money for the community, for the family. And the man doesn't have that responsibility at all. She said her husband was totally checked out with the kids, So can you imagine the amount of pressure on a woman to do that? And, like I said, the opposite of IBLP, where a woman her place is in the home. She's supposed to learn sewing, cooking, and cleaning. She's not allowed to learn math or any science. Everything is whatever they've, deemed their homeschooling material appropriate. It's similar to the Orthodox Judaism, where they only learn a certain scope of things, which keeps them there. Which means that if all these people were introduced to more, would they leave? Would they stay? What makes somebody stay or leave? Well, okay. Well, I think we have to ask Dr. John, because he will be able to give us a good perspective on that. But I'm just so fascinated by this idea of people learning to do things and leave, and being able to understand what's out there, to know to go out there.
Well, and also too, I have to say, if all these people were up in my business all the time, I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, show us your period stained cloth.
Yeah, exactly.
Ew.
I will keep my period stained cloth to myself. Thank you very much.
I mean, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. And
I want to talk to I think, you said, let's bring John in, because I don't think he's going to have a period cloth, but I know he's going to have.
Yes,
he's going to drop some knowledge on us. About these people. Hi, Dr. John.
Let's let him in. Here's the door opening.
There we go.
The doctor is
coming out of our spacious and well-appointed green room,
Yes. Tell us what you think, John.
Well, first of all, I was blown away by this interview, and more importantly by Chavie. What an amazing person again. With all the craziness that's going on in our society, with all these characters we read about every day in the news, on how crazy things are, it gives you hope that there's people like Chavie in the world that are strong and intelligent and brave. People are are out there like that, and I have to applaud her tremendously. The second reaction I had is when I'm in situations like this, whether it's treating patients or on a consultation or watching something like this, I get so embarrassed being a man. I really do.
You
And so
do?
I'm embarrassed being a male
Oh.
and
You're one of the good ones.
surrounded by this craziness to women. I'm a little bit of a history buff. And the other thing that embarrasses me and saddens me about male-female relationships is this is not new. Do you realize that in medieval times, some of the craziness that surrounded women and marriage and sex goes back to the 1400s. This is another thing that's so primitive about these groups. I mean, in medieval times, for the upper class, not necessarily the peasant class, but the marriages were arranged oftentimes, especially in the royalty, at 6 years of age. 5 years of age, your daughter is sold to another kingdom to make alliances, to get property, to get wealth, etc. So what we're witnessing here today is not new in our culture and our history, which is disgusting. We haven't learned anything after what, 1,000 years. It's crazy. So I get very upset watching something like Javie's story here. I have to say that was my reaction. But anyway, some questions you both may have.
I have a question. So Chavie is obviously a very strong individual, and I've asked you this before with some of the other cults that we've watched, but because these people are brainwashed so much, and because they are not allowed to really truly live within the full world, they're really stuck in their communities. Where does one find the strength to get out of this like Chavie? It's not, she's probably the exception. She's not the rule. So how do you think one can do that?
Well, here's what happens. First of all, even in our early journey here on these podcasts, think about the people that we've talked about in these cults already. The people that have broken out. And with your experience in watching some of these, besides what we've talked about in our podcast, if you look at it, male, female, whoever, they're intelligent, they're independent, they have an inherent knowledge or empathy that this is crazy. So you're right, it takes special people, but those special people have to have the quality of intelligence, empathy, and kind of a perspective, a larger perspective, which is about your brain power, your intelligence. So conversely, the people that these cults feed off of, and this Hasidic cult is no different here, are not that intelligent, are compliant, don't have an inherent need to wonder more about life or what is this all about? What is my purpose, etc., which is truly an inherent developmental stage that we go through. I don't know if you both have ever experienced this, but I can remember as a late teenager kind of having that teenage angst of, what is this all about? Is this all, are we just,
like the Amish have the Rumspringa, right? Where you can kind of go off and experience the world before you go back in,
exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And with the Hasidic Jews, they don't teach regular school. It is not it is more so of the Torah learnings than an actual school.
Well, as Javie pointed out in the interview, that they edit the books. They they black out things that they don't want the children to see. And as you two were discussing, the word library is blackened out because that's outside of the cult.
They don't want you to experience, they don't want you to ask questions. The less questions, the better compliant you are. John, why are things becoming more primitive? What I'm noticing is the people in charge of all of these things have mental illness. They've got to. Do you understand what I mean? Can you expand on that? The primitive quality, the purity culture with women, which the irony is they're all being abused. So like how your purity culture, you're inviting it in, you're letting guys take advantage of you. It's your fault. How is that even, it's just so upsetting. All of them are like that with women.
Stacey, here's something we need to think about. And this is an important point. And I don't think many people talk about, but when you talk about people, the leaders being mentally ill, and I so far agree on the people that we've studied here and talked about, but those people are charismatic. It's exciting. It's different. What is mental illness? Mental illness is against the norm. That's how we define mental illness, that it's unusual. It's against the norm. So what in most people's lives, becomes exciting. It's something different. Look at the cults we've talked about so far. The leaders have some charisma and the ideas are different. And I'm going to get something from this. And the same thing with this ascetic cult. It's like you guys were talking about before. Well, what's the reward here? Well, the reward is, you'll be with God, or you'll get children, or we'll take care of everything. For the unintelligent and non-empathetic person, that's very satisfying. It's safety, right? It's protection. It's safety. We'll take care of everything. You don't have to decide anything. Look at the struggle that Chavie went through. It, like she said, and made such a wonderful comment on towards the end of the interview. You got years and years of it being torturous, hard to break away from these things. But then it's like the sky opens up and you have a whole new life. People are satisfied with that safety net. Anyway.
How do you, she has 3 children and she talked a lot about therapy. I often hear like some of the kids of the people who were, I'll say, abused within these cults or treated poorly. Sometimes the children stay, that they want to still be a part of it. I think her 3 children, and Stacey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think her 3 children have stayed with her kind of more out of the religion.
Seems so. It's not clear, but it seems like they're not Hasidic.
Yeah. I think that they are not, I don't think I think they're more involved with her than they are with him, and they're in their 20s, and a little younger, because I think when she got divorced, her kids were 1, 2, and 5 or something. So I believe that they have a really great relationship. I mean, she seems so happy. She's engaged. She has a great relationship with her kids.
And the kids kids see the father too, right?
Yeah.
The kids,
I believe they do. Yes.
She said they're in family therapy with the father.
Yeah. That's amazing. But see, I think that's a rarity. Like
I'd like to be a fly on that wall.
Me too. Me too. I mean, she is just very dynamic and very smart and cool. And I think the thread you were also talking about, John, with all these people in all the podcasts we've done where one person gets out, I think that the idea of that is intelligence and the ability to think differently. It's inherent in those people and not inherent in others. But there's also a giant threat coming from the top, the men, of if you do this, then this. If you do that, then that. If you do this, then this.
Chavie said that even though at about 17 or 18, she was having these questions and she was thinking in this direction, she talks strongly about how she abdicated to the control. Again, she even used the term brainwashed. I was brainwashed since little that this is who you are. And this is just how the world goes. And remember, that's part of that controllingness that all these cults do. That's why they keep you insular, so that you don't know any different. But it's somebody like Chavie who has the internal insight and intelligence to say, what's this about? There's got to be more. That drives them to say, well, let me take a look at life and what are the options here, and apply.
And also, John, piggybacking on that, and I'm sorry, I hope I didn't cut you off.
No.
There's this idea of the lack of information. How do they, like when she said when the first time she had sex, it felt like rape because it was awful. Not having the knowledge, only hearing from the Jewish, the Hasidic therapist and the Orthodox rabbi giving you their information. How do you even know that this isn't what it's supposed to be?
You don't. And I think she made a good,
You know?
Statement about, let's go back to that, putting the cloth in your vagina to check whether you're bleeding.
7 days after your period, you need to prove that you are completely clean of your period for 7 days. So there's this little white cloth, the specific rabbi approved white square cloth that you need to insert inside of yourself twice a day. I think it was twice a day. I might be missing. I forgot. It's so long, but I think it's twice a day leading up, following your period. And also you need to wear white underwear and use white sheets on your bed during that time.
Whoa.
And the point of all of this is to say that if there is any hint of blood, then if it's ascertained to be period blood, then you need to start over and count 7 clean days before you're allowed to touch your husband again.
If you listen to her carefully, it was like, yeah, this was disgusting to me. It was painful. I'm sure it is to so many women. I don't want to say all, because again, you have the people that are compliant and, okay, this is just what we do. But I could feel her pain of, yeah, I thought this was just such an abusive, intrusive thing. It was weird. That's a special person. That takes the left brain, right brain intelligence just clashing together and going, this is not right. This is crazy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I don't think I put a pin on a question about the kids, but when the kids do leave with their parent, if the kids leave, but they still have a tie to their cousins or their grandparents. Maybe, but let's say they do within these cults. Sometimes they say that like some cults, you're shut out. If you leave, you're shut out. But it doesn't quite sound like this with the Hasidic Jewish population.
Right.
So if the kids leave, how do they maintain a relationship with their father and I know the family therapy, I get that, but with the cousins and with the friends who raised them? And
I love this question because I deal with this all the time in my practice. And that is when children have these split households, and look at how diametrically opposed these households were as they were going through this. You got the Hasidic Jewish household, and then you got Chavie's household, more enlightened and enriched, etc. And I tell this to parents all the time, and this is truth, guys. This is not something just as I made up, is that when you're in this situation, you present an island to the kids. Your household is a model, is an island. And we sometimes shortchange kids that they're very insightful. I used to use the phrase, I guess I still do, kids are the best psychologists in the whole world. They see through things, X-ray vision. And so if you present your household as an island and what the values you got. You don't have to, as Javi even said, I couldn't mention the particular words, but they picked up on who she was as a model in this island of what her household was. And that gets through the kids. Kids then see, like, yeah, this makes sense. And this other thing is crazy. I want this. So I tell parents all the time, just keep your island with the kids. Be a model. You don't have to. In fact, it's detrimental to knock the other household or, oh, that's wrong, etc. Remember, she couldn't even do that. She couldn't even have them watch movies that were secular, I guess we'd say, that the Hasidics would object to.
One of the things I did was I would curate these little playlist of videos. I would do this through Facebook. So anytime I would see something on Facebook that was a current events or something values based or just something cute, I would save those links in my Facebook. I don't know if this is so past, it's so long ago. And then at dinner every night, we would have this little show. I would show them all the little videos that I had curated over the weekend while they were away. And it was a way to kind of give them bits of the larger world and share with them the things that are important. And again, deconstruct some of those problematic ideas. And we would discuss it. And, and it was fun and it was light and there was a cute kid and a puppy. And then there was also just here's what's happening in politics and here's what's happening in, so it was a full-time job figuring out how to give these children a core sense of identity that aligned with the values I wanted them to have, while still being really careful about not getting in trouble with the courts.
And audience needs to know, this was by law. This was part of her divorce decree that she couldn't do this. So it wasn't she was cooperating or going along with the ex-husband. It was a law, and she could have lost all contact with the kids unless she followed this. But what I drew out of it is this important lesson, how we build islands for our kids in your own home. And the modeling is so powerful and important. And she's a perfect example of this because her kids are now, as young adults, all with her. And yet she had so many restrictions of what she could or couldn't say. But they saw who she was as opposed to this bizarro guy.
What is so common throughout all of these, out of all of these cults, is just the lack of information and the lack of contact with the outside world. And I think it is so dangerous to set your kids up that way, because having that insular life creates abuse, creates depression, suicidology. I just learned that was a word. And all these other things in the person that's there. Maybe not even having an awareness, maybe a subconscious thing, but it is so much more rampant now than it was. And I thought, as I was growing up, I thought that things were getting less and less culty. It seems like cults are becoming more and more prevalent. Why are cults becoming more prevalent? Are men in charge more? Do we have a society?
Men have always been in charge.
They've always been in charge.
What I've said since the 1400s, and I'm sure it was even before then, where women are property. Women are, something to be abused. You should hear, this may be another episode, the essential rape that would happen in the medieval times on your wedding night. And guess what? The people at your wedding, this is an amazing fact. The people at your wedding would watch you consummate your marriage on the night of your wedding. It would be an audience watching you have sex for the first time.
I love an audience, but
not for
I
sex.
don't want anybody watching me banging my new husband. Thank you.
Well,
I don't want.
Unless you're a budding porn star, I think that's aberrant to anything.
sorry about another. I'm still on this question. The purity and the purity culture of the whole thing and the lack of information about sex. The irony of it is that everything is about sex, but it's the wrong conversation. It's about, you need to consummate your marriage with your husband or else you can't. You have to have basically get in a red tent and wait until your blood is gone. And if it's not gone after 7 days, you have to wait 7 more days. All these rules around being a woman. And it's the opposite of what they're trying to tell you.
Let me interrupt, Stacey, but think about it. It's all about the man and the man's convenience. And the man,
Convenient.
I can't have any blood or any dirtiness around, because that's, I can't have my husband around then. Because he can't be around that. It's all for the man.
Unclean.
It's all for the man. And she hinted at this, and again, and just going through history and what I know about history, there's no foreplay. There's no woman is ready to sex. It's not about tenderness and love. Sex should come out of our affection and love for each other, not just a man sticks it in a dry vagina and,
Shouldn't we outlaw boner pills? Isn't that what we're all getting at? That maybe all those little blue pills should be thrown to the wayside?
Well, you should talk to my dad about it.
You heard her say about...
Does he have a stash, Stacey?
Sorry, no, he's a urologist. He used to leave it in his locker at the country club for people to grab.
I thought you were open.
I missed that.
Who did that? Talk to my dad.
My dad. Yes. Cialis and Viagra. His friends would want it. He'd leave it in his locker and they'd go get it. I mean, that is so funny and weird, but don't come back after him. He doesn't have
back to the interview. Remember how she said, and this was particularly disgusting, how you're taught as a woman in this ascetic community that if you show a man anything that could be stimulating, the thought was then they would walk around with a boner.
Meaning cover your arms, cover your legs. You have to wear like nylons all the time.
A bare ankle.
It's like a burqa. It's very similar.
It is much.
They're
all
Muslim
the same. Yep. It's all the same concept of hide everything, because if you attract a man, then it's your fault. It's not their fault. But what if they're attracted to your lip?
Right.
What are you supposed to do? Cover your lip?
Yeah.
You're supposed to just not exist?
That's a whole other culture. That's why we have burqas.
Burqas, yeah. I mean, so that to me, it's all about controlling women, putting them in a box, putting them where they need to go, and making them suffer. And
it's
just
disgusting.
It's like very controlled. And for girls, it's strict modesty. So, covered like your neck to your wrists, skirts past your knees, thick tights that cover your legs, and even styles and fashion is very controlled. Colors, which colors you can wear. Everything is about like conformity and modesty. Because it starts so young, they don't tell you it's about men when you're 3 years old, right? They say it's about looking like a proper daughter of God, whatever that means.
Okay.
You're a daughter, you're royalty, you're a daughter of the king. Would a royal child be dressed so inappropriately? There's that framing.
Can I comment on something, Stacey, you threw out a few minutes ago, and I think it's very, very important. Knowledge is power. And when you keep people away from knowledge, then people don't have any idea that there's alternative to any of this. That's what I love about doing this podcast. We're throwing knowledge out there for people that, hey, wake up, think about some of these things that are going on around you. But another thing I want to get to, if you don't mind me changing the topic a little bit, I think one of the most powerful lessons that comes out of this interview and this discussion today between us is this whole concept of the divorce. And I just want to make a comment for our audience about divorce. Like I said before, about how kids can be a model in, the different households. So don't be afraid of this whole thing of split households and kids have to visit the ex who may be a jerk, even sometimes evil. You are an island. But also, I want to make a point, and Chavie said this so beautifully. She said, got this divorce so that my kids and I can be a better person. I wanted to be a better parent for my kids. And I can't tell you how many times in therapy that I will say that to parents getting a divorce. Why are you getting this divorce? And of course, there's oftentimes abuse or, etc. But you're getting it to improve your life and to improve the life of your children. That's the focus. So I'll tell parents a statement, and they loved hearing this. Getting this divorce is your opportunity to become the best parent you can be, not vice versa. Oh, we got to stay together, and that's what's best for the kids. No, you're doing this to be the best parent you can be. And Javi said that, and I got goosebumps hearing that, because I wanted to stand up and cheer, even though I was in my study late at night in the dark watching this interview.
Well, you're right, John. I mean, being somebody who's divorced with kids, your first thought is, how can I do this? Why am I doing this? How can I do this to them? And, hearing it from somebody like you about you're doing this to improve your life and your kids' lives, and they get to be with both parents.
The beginning of like that new chapter after my husband left, and all of a sudden I was like, it's just me and these 3 babies. Like, we can do this. And it was like a heavy weight was lifted off my shoulders. I didn't feel like anything was harder because of him leaving. Like, on the contrary, I felt so much lighter and freer. It was the first time in my life that there wasn't a man who is my father or my husband controlling me and telling me what I needed to do. And
Yeah.
I think because also this is part of like growing up as a woman in the community. It's like you're trained since you're little for motherhood. That's like a thing that, you're expected to really like get good at. And I shaped my whole identity around that. And that's something I'm grateful for as a person who has children, that like my immediate instinct after that divorce was just like, I am going to make this life so good for these children.
The other thing that was so beautifully said, and another one of my basic philosophies and principles for parents, is that we're in this for the long haul with kids. She talked about at the end, and it was such a wonderful statement to hear her say, all the pain, all the trauma, all that long, arduous road that I took, now for the rest of my life, we have this beauty and we have this wonderful life. And she's only 42 years of age. I guess I'm dating myself here, but she's got a beautiful life out of her. Always remember, parents out there, we're in this for the long haul with kids. You might have trouble with your kids. You might go through trauma. You might go through financial trauma as the kids are young. What we're gearing towards is exactly what she has now. Tremendous relationships with young adult children. So we have to remember that kids aren't a finished product. And so the things that happen, we're gearing for them to be wonderful adults and hang in there. That's what our goal is. It's not the moment that, maybe some trauma can happen or some bad things happen, or your kid doesn't get the trophy in school or gets a bad grade on a test. It's about who they are when they become adults. And it's very, very important. And she said it so beautifully.
There should be more Chavies in the world, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love her. And I should say that, Dori and I are Jewish, and this is not about the Jewish religion in any capacity. This is about control in very extreme cult-like situations. So we'll be talking about Scientology, Christianity, IBLP, Judaism. This is not about Judaism. I'm a very proud Jew.
As am I.
And I'm very happy that Chavie and I have a very similar thing. Now, if you want to learn more about Chavie, she has a website of her own, which has a ton of information. And That website is ChavieWeisberger.com, and her name is spelled ChavieWeisberger.com. And this says a lot of stuff about the things she's done, the interviews, the speaking engagements, training and stuff.
Chavie also, her job that she had while she was still in her marriage and still to this day is with an organization called Footsteps, and they're at footstepsorg.org. And I believe they are the only organization in the United States that help Hasidic Jews get out of their situation and help people who have gotten out of it with other tools, like with children and all of that. And they're based out of New York.
And I want to add, that's so important for our audience to hear. But it's not just with Hasidic Jews that when you're involved in these cults or you've just a bad, horrible situation in your life, there are so many organizations out there that you can turn to. You're not alone. There's many social service organizations that'll help you. I can't tell you how many patients that I've treated that have benefited by organizations that help, for example, women. And Chavie mentioned one that she used. I don't think it was the Footsteps, but someone else tied her up with an organization that got her an attorney pro bono, meaning free, got a free attorney. People don't realize they're not just helpless and without resources. And this one with where you can get pro bono legal work, especially going through a divorce, they're all over the country. So because so many people go, well, I can't afford it. I'm stuck. I can't afford it.
No, I'm stuck. Right. You can't, you know what? There's always going to be someone out there who's good, who will help you, because I tell you, getting a divorce is the biggest racket. It's so expensive, and you have to fight, and you have to, as a woman, it can be very hard, and that's a different topic, but it is
so glad that I'm single.
You know what?
And I've never been married.
You
and
have
I
your
don't
penis.
have any children. But I have a dog that has a bad penis.
When are you going to get rid of that dog? When is he going to get
It's not get rid of. He has to be adopted.
Well, that's what I mean. Isn't that the same thing?
Dog.
Get rid of him?
No.
Adopt him, you know?
Get rid of him. Dr. John, this shows Dr. John's terrible side.
When are you going to get rid of that penis dog?
By the way, if anybody's interested in adopting a small dog under 30 pounds that is phenomenal, except has a bad dick, please go to mcpreScue.org and look at the photo of Bosch, Bosch, and adopt this effing dog so I can take on a new foster.
Although that is so sweet.
He's becoming a character in our podcast.
It's very important that we're talking about a man with a bad dick, because I'm sure there's many men out there.
It ties it all around.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, and check out Shalise Ann Sola's podcast called Cults to Consciousness on YouTube. She has a ton of different podcasts about all different kinds of people getting out of cults. So check it out.
Thank you to everyone for listening. On our next episode, we may be discussing a cult or a crime. Our theme music is written and performed by Midnight Current, and you can hear more from them on SoundCloud. Please visit PodCandyPodcast.com to learn more about us and listen to all of our episodes, or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much.
PodCandy.